Part 1. The Grand Hall of the Galaxy Council Station was silent. Ambassador Taeyang stood at the human podium, his hands gripping the edges tightly. Around him sat representatives from 47 different species. Some breathed methane in sealed chambers. Others floated in gravity fields. A few appeared as pure energy behind special screens. All of them watched him with their various forms of eyes, sensors, and awareness fields. Taeyang had prepared for this moment for 3 weeks. He practiced the speech dozens of times. Still, his voice shook slightly when he began speaking. The translator devices hummed to life, converting his words into 46 different languages and communication methods simultaneously. What he said would reach every corner of known space within hours. Humanity was leaving the Galaxy Council. All diplomatic ties were ending immediately. Every human embassy would close. Every trade agreement would terminate. Every cultural exchange would stop. After 15 years of membership, humans were walking away completely. The announcement caused immediate chaos. Several ambassadors started shouting in their native languages. The Traxian representative turned 3 different colors, which meant extreme agitation in their species. The Nevon delegates' tentacles writhed in distress. Council Director Vorn banged his gavel repeatedly, trying to restore order. But Taeyang simply placed a data crystal on the central podium, removed his ambassador's badge, and walked out. He never looked back. 3 weeks earlier, everything seemed normal. The research ship Morningstar traveled through a neutral zone near the Adar system. Captain Hana commanded a crew of 47 scientists and support staff. They had full council permission to study unusual energy readings near a collapsed star. The work was routine, the kind of research humans did regularly. Nobody expected any problems. On the 5th day, 4 massive warships appeared on their sensors. Hana recognized them immediately. Velcor collective vessels, some of the most powerful military ships in the galaxy. She opened communication channels right away, ready to explain their authorized mission. Before she could speak, the Velcor commander spoke first. Commander Thress accused them of spying on Velcor military operations. Hana tried to respond, to show their council authorization, to explain they were only studying stellar phenomena. Thress did not listen. He declared them enemies of the Velcor collective and opened fire without warning. The Morningstar had weak shields designed only for protection from space debris and radiation. Their ship carried no weapons at all. Against 4 Velcor warships, they had no chance. The attack lasted 3 minutes. Plasma cannons tore through their hull. Explosions ripped apart laboratories and living quarters. The ship broke into pieces that fell toward the dead star, burning as they descended. All 47 humans died, not quickly according to the recovered sensor logs. The ship's emergency systems kept some compartments intact for nearly a minute after the first hit. The crew knew they were dying. They sent final messages to families on Earth. They held each other as the ship came apart around them. Then they were gone. A Tavian merchant vessel witnessed everything from a safe distance. Their captain recorded the entire incident. The evidence was absolutely clear. This was not an accident or a mistake. The Velcor deliberately attacked an unarmed research ship operating under council authority. By any definition of council law, this was murder. Taeyang brought the evidence to the council immediately. He showed the recordings, the communication logs, the sensor data. Everything proved the Velcor committed an unprovoked attack on innocent civilians. Under council law, such actions carried severe penalties. Loss of voting rights, massive fines, possibly even expulsion from the council. Justice seemed certain. The council spent 2 weeks in closed sessions reviewing the evidence. Nobody was allowed to observe. No updates were released. Finally, they announced their decision. Commander Thress would receive a formal reprimand in his military record. The Velcor collective would pay a fine equal to the cost of replacing the Morningstar. Nothing else. No real punishment. No justice for the dead. The council called it an unfortunate incident caused by communication failures. They said both sides shared responsibility. The humans should have been more careful entering a sensitive area. The Velcor overreacted but meant no real harm. These things happen in space. Everyone should move forward and forget about it. Taeyang sat in the council gallery listening to the announcement. He felt something break inside him. Not just anger, though he felt plenty of that. Something deeper. The council he believed in did not actually exist. The principles they claimed to follow were lies. Justice only applied when it was politically convenient. and human lives meant absolutely nothing when measured against Velcor power. He returned to Earth immediately. The United Earth government held emergency meetings for 3 days straight. Secretary General Bora chaired the sessions. She had spent her entire career building relationships with alien species. This decision would destroy all that work. But she knew it had to be done. Defense Minister Kyung presented the security implications. Staying in the council meant accepting that any human could be killed without consequence if the killer was powerful enough. How could they tell colonists they were safe? How could they send scientists to do research? How could they trust any council member when the council itself would not enforce its own laws? Admiral Do-hyun explained the military situation. The Earth Defense Fleet had been preparing for this possibility since humans first joined the council. They never fully trusted that the galaxy would be friendly. Good thing they prepared. Human space could be defended. It would not be easy, but it was possible. Dr. Yuna spoke for the scientific community. Leaving meant ending thousands of research partnerships. Medical advances would slow. Cultural understanding would suffer. But she understood why it had to happen. Science means nothing without ethics. The council proved they had no real ethics, only politics. The government put the question to a global vote. Every nation participated. The choice was stated clearly. Stay in the council and accept that human lives have no protection, or leave and face an uncertain future alone. The result shocked nobody. 94% voted to leave. Even most of the scientists and merchants who would suffer the most from isolation agreed. Some things matter more than profit or knowledge. Dignity matters. Justice matters. Self-respect matters. Taeyang drafted the formal departure notice himself. The document was only 3 pages long. It listed the facts of the Morningstar incident. It described the council's failure to provide meaningful justice. It stated humanity's conclusion that council membership served no purpose if members received no real protection under council law. Therefore, humanity was ending all diplomatic relations effective immediately. When he stood in the council chamber that final time, Taeyang felt calm. This was the right decision. Difficult, yes. Costly, absolutely. But right. He read the statement in a clear voice. Some council members tried to interrupt. Vorn banged his gavel. The Velcor representative actually laughed, like this was some kind of joke. Taeyang ignored all of them. When he finished reading, he placed the data crystal containing the official notice on the central podium. Then he removed his badge. The small piece of metal had seemed so important when they first gave it to him 15 years ago. It represented humanity's place in galactic civilization. Now it represented nothing but broken promises and empty words. He set the badge beside the crystal and walked toward the exit. Behind him, the council chamber erupted in noise. Dozens of species shouting at once. Arguments starting. Accusations flying. Taeyang heard none of it clearly. His mind was already focused on the future. Humanity would survive this. They would build something new. And maybe someday the galaxy would understand why this had to happen. The doors closed behind him with a soft hiss. Taeyang stood in the corridor for a moment, breathing deeply. Then he walked toward the docking bay where a human ship waited. It was time to go home. The galaxy could manage without humans, and humans would definitely manage without the galaxy. Part 2, the evacuation began within hours. Human diplomatic staff across 23 different stations and worlds received the same message at the same time. Pack everything. Leave nothing behind. Come home now. Ships arrived at each location with military precision. This operation had been planned carefully, ready to execute the moment Earth made its decision. Ambassador Hajun supervised the largest evacuation on the trade world Kessia. He had worked there for 8 years. His office overlooked the central marketplace where dozens of species bought and sold goods from across the galaxy. He knew merchants by name. He ate at restaurants run by alien families. He even learned to enjoy Tavian music despite its unusual rhythms. Some of his alien friends came to say goodbye. Vrel, a Tavian merchant who sold human textiles, brought gifts for Hajun's family back on Earth. Several Nivon researchers offered to resign from their positions in protest. They wanted to show solidarity with humanity. Hajun thanked them but refused. This was a human decision. Others should not suffer for it. The evacuation completed in 36 hours. Every human in council space returned to human territory. They brought years of research data, detailed maps, cultural records, and personal memories. But they also brought anger. Many had believed the council represented something noble. Now they knew it was just politics and power. The disappointment hurt almost as much as the reason for leaving. Back at the council station, emergency sessions continued for days. Council Director Vorn tried to maintain order, but the chamber was chaos. Representatives shouted at each other in a dozen different languages. Some blamed the Velcor for creating this mess. Others blamed the humans for overreacting. A few blamed Vorn himself for weak leadership. Nobody wanted to accept that the system itself was broken. Senator Illan from the Trezin Union gave a passionate speech. He demanded the council reverse its decision about the Morning Star incident. Give the humans real justice and they might return. Several smaller species applauded. They saw themselves in humanity's situation. If this could happen to humans, it could happen to them too. The Velcor representative rejected the proposal immediately. Commander Thress acted within his authority as a military officer. The Velcor would not accept additional punishment. Furthermore, if the council tried to force the issue, the Velcor hinted they might reconsider their own membership. The threat was clear. Lose the humans or lose the Velcor. The council could not afford to lose both. This revealed the fundamental problem. The council could not enforce its own laws against powerful members. Justice existed only when convenient. Small species watched these arguments carefully. They learned an important lesson. They were not protected either. The council would abandon them just as easily as it abandoned humanity. Economic problems appeared almost immediately. Humans controlled significant trade in agricultural products, medical supplies, and raw minerals. Human colonies produced food that fed 6 different worlds. Human research facilities shared medical data that saved lives across multiple species. All of that ended when the diplomatic ties broke. Trade Minister Yunji had built these relationships carefully over many years. She made humanity valuable to council economies. Now that value disappeared overnight. Food shipments stopped. Medical research projects lost their human partners. Mining operations on human worlds no longer sold to council buyers. The economic impact spread like ripples in water. The Rillian free traders suffered the worst damage. Their entire business model depended on moving goods between human and council space. Hundreds of Rillian merchants faced bankruptcy. Representative Morvan contacted Secretary General Bora directly through unofficial channels. He begged her to reconsider. The Rillians had nothing to do with the Morning Star incident. Why should innocent traders be punished? Bora's response was polite but firm. This was not punishment. Humanity simply had no reason to trade with council members anymore. The relationship was built on trust and mutual respect. The council destroyed that trust when it failed to provide justice for murdered civilians. Until trust was rebuilt, there would be no trade, no cooperation, and no contact. Military movements concerned many observers. Admiral Dohyun activated defense plans that had been prepared years earlier. The Earth Defense Fleet had grown quietly during the 15 years of council membership. Official reports claimed 247 ships. The actual number was 612. Humans spent those years building strength in secret, preparing for the possibility that the galaxy might not be safe. The fleet did not attack anyone. Instead, it took defensive positions around all 31 human-controlled systems. New sensor networks activated, watching every possible approach. Defense stations went to full alert. Weapons hidden in civilian structures revealed themselves. Earth had always been more protected than it appeared. Captain Minho commanded the defense station at Proxima, humanity's oldest colony beyond Earth's solar system. His orders were absolutely clear. No council ships enter human space. If they try, warn them once. If they continue, open fire. There would be no third warning. Admiral Dohyun made this policy public. He wanted no misunderstandings. Human space was now closed to the council. Commander Thress made things worse by giving an interview to a galaxy-wide news service. He defended his attack on the Morning Star. He claimed the human ship was scanning Velcor military frequencies, attempting to steal classified information. Never mind that civilian science equipment could never break Velcor military encryption. Thress wanted credit for stopping human spies. The interview angered even some Velcor allies. It made the Velcor look stupid and cruel. Worse, it showed that Thress still did not understand what he did wrong. He killed 47 innocent people and expected praise for it. This attitude worried many council members. If the Velcor could not recognize their own mistakes, what might they do next? Marshal Tovan, supreme commander of all Velcor military forces, watched events with growing concern. Unlike Thres, Tovin understood strategy. The humans were not acting like a weak species. Their withdrawal was organized and professional. Their military positioning showed expert planning. These were not the behaviors of prey. These were the actions of a predator choosing its moment. Not everyone in the council supported what happened. Senator Vorvis from the Leon Commonwealth gave an emotional speech that many remembered later. She pointed out that the council's principles meant nothing if they were not enforced fairly. The humans expected justice. They had every right to expect it. By failing to provide it, the council failed its own purpose for existing. The Aurelian Assembly also expressed support for humanity. Ambassador Kress announced that his people would continue scientific cooperation with humans outside council authority. If the council could not be trusted to protect innocent researchers, then research must happen somewhere else. Several other species made similar announcements. The council was losing influence rapidly, but these voices were a minority. Most council members viewed humanity's departure as a temporary annoyance. They believed humans would realize they needed the council more than the council needed them. Humans would come back eventually, probably with an apology and a request to rejoin. This confident attitude showed how badly the council misunderstood the situation. On Earth, government officials worked day and night planning for the future. Secretary General Bora established new departments to handle the changed situation. The Department of Independent Relations would seek partnerships with non-council species. The Department of Economic Adaptation would help colonies adjust to closed council markets. The Department of Defense Coordination would work with Admiral Do Hyun to protect human space. Public opinion on Earth strongly supported the decision to leave. News services showed the recordings from the Morning Star over and over. People saw the unarmed research ship destroyed without warning. They saw the council's pathetic response. They understood why humanity could not stay. Some worried about the future. Many felt uncertain about being alone in the galaxy, but almost everyone agreed this was the right choice. Ambassador Taiyang spent his first week back on Earth, giving interviews and answering questions. Everyone wanted to know what came next. He gave the same answer every time. Humanity would survive. They would build new relationships with species that valued justice. They would protect themselves, and they would never again accept being treated as if their lives had no value. The galaxy was changing. The council's authority was cracking. Small species began questioning whether membership served their interests. Economic systems built on council trade were failing. The old order was breaking down. And humanity, the species that walked away, stood at the center of the coming storm. They did not seek this position, but they would not run from it either. Part 3. 6 months passed since humanity left the council. The initial shock faded, replaced by hard work. Secretary General Bora assigned Ambassador So-min to lead a new diplomatic mission. Her goal was simple but difficult. Find species willing to work with humanity outside the council structure. Build relationships based on genuine equality rather than political convenience. The first breakthrough came with the Thanari Circle. 5 species left the council 40 years earlier, after their own disputes with council leadership. They built a cooperative alliance in a distant region of space. Their system worked on true equality. All members had equal voice regardless of size or power. They prospered without the council. Soman traveled to Thena Prime, their capital world. The journey took 3 weeks. When she arrived, Chancellor Wexel greeted her personally. He was an old leader who remembered the pain of leaving the council. They talked for hours about trust, justice, and what kind of galaxy they wanted. By the end, they agreed to begin cultural exchanges and limited trade. It was a small step but meaningful. The Thanari taught Soman an important lesson. Leaving the council did not mean being alone in the galaxy. It meant being free to choose better partners. Within months, humanity established contact with 7 other independent groups. Not all wanted close ties, but all respected humanity's decision to stand up for its principles. Back in human space, Trade Director Hyunwoo faced serious challenges. Many human colonies were designed to serve council markets. New Angeles grew medicinal plants for Tavian biology. Altair stations raised livestock for Velcor consumption. Vega refineries processed minerals to council specifications. Now those markets were closed. The colonies needed to adapt or face economic collapse. The solution required creativity. Hyunwoo organized meetings with colonial governors. Together they redesigned production systems. New Angeles started producing medical compounds for human use instead of Tavian. The plants that grew there had properties useful for Earth medicine too. Altair shifted to feeding the growing human population across dozens of worlds. Vega refined minerals to human industrial standards. The transformation took a year but succeeded beyond expectations. Trade between human worlds increased 340%. New shipping routes developed connecting colonies that rarely interacted before. Colonial governors met regularly to coordinate production. Humanity became genuinely self-sufficient. They no longer depended on anyone else for survival. Military development accelerated dramatically. Admiral Do-Yun authorized Project Talon, a modernization program designed years ago but never fully funded. Now money flowed freely. Defense spending increased 400% in the first year. New shipyards opened at 6 colony systems. Research facilities tested weapons and technologies the Council had restricted. Captain Jiwoo oversaw weapons testing at the military research station near Saturn. She watched human scientists explore ideas that Council regulations once forbade. The Council restricted certain research areas to maintain control over member species. Those restrictions no longer applied to humanity. Human researchers asked unusual questions and tried seemingly crazy ideas. Many experiments failed completely. Some produced results too dangerous to use, but others succeeded in unexpected ways. Human thinking was different from most species. Where others followed established principles, humans improvised and took risks. Within 2 years, human ships had capabilities that surprised even their own designers. The Council had no idea what humanity was building. Cultural changes were equally dramatic. Artist Nari noticed something interesting. During the Council years, human culture tried to appeal to multiple species. Artists created bland, universal themes that offended nobody but inspired nobody. Music used simple patterns. Literature avoided complex emotions. Visual art stayed safe and predictable. Now human artists rediscovered their own heritage. Music became complex and emotional again. Literature explored themes unique to human experience. Visual arts embraced styles from different Earth cultures. The work was not better or worse than before. It was just more honest. Humans stopped trying to be universal and embraced being themselves. This cultural shift affected everything. Fashion changed dramatically. Architecture developed bold new styles mixing old Earth traditions with space-age materials. Even language evolved. Humans stopped using simplified galactic common speech in daily life. They returned to the richness of their own languages. Human identity became stronger and more confident. Meanwhile, the Galaxy Council faced growing problems. 3 more incidents occurred where powerful members abused weaker ones. Each time, the Council failed to provide real justice. Smaller species noticed the pattern. The system worked for the strong, but not for the weak. More members began questioning whether the Council served their interests. The Darien Accord formed in response. 7 small species created a political bloc to push for reforms. Ambassador Kelvin led their effort. They proposed new rules requiring equal application of Council law regardless of military power or economic importance. Justice could not depend on politics. The proposal made sense, but it failed. Powerful members like the Velcor and Traxian hegemony voted against reform. They benefited from the current system. Why change it? The vote revealed clear divisions. Small species realized they had no real voice in Council decisions. They started talking among themselves about whether membership was worth the cost. The most important discovery happened far from politics. Exploration ship Endeavour, commanded by Captain June, found something remarkable in an unexplored region. An ancient station orbiting a dead world. The structure was massive, built by a civilization that disappeared thousands of years ago. The Torvan Empire once ruled this entire region. Captain June brought archaeologist Sunhee to examine the find. She spent months translating intact data archives. What she discovered changed human understanding of galactic history. The Torvan Empire built a system exactly like the current Council. Powerful species dominated weak ones. Laws applied differently to different members. Justice depended on political convenience. The Torvan records described how resentment built over centuries. Weak species suffered abuse with no recourse. They united secretly, planning rebellion. When the war came, it destroyed everything. Hundreds of worlds burned. Billions died. The empire collapsed completely. The survivors scattered across the galaxy, their civilization lost forever. The message was clear. Systems built on inequality always collapse eventually. The question is not if, but when. The Council was following the same path as the Torvan Empire. The structure was identical. The injustices were similar. Eventually, the weak would unite against the strong. War would come. The galaxy would burn again. Secretary General Bora read Sunhee's report with deep concern. If humanity had stayed in the Council, they would be caught in the collapse when it came. By leaving, they saved themselves from disaster, but the galaxy still faced danger. The Council would fall. The only question was how much damage would happen when it did. She called a meeting with her senior advisors. They discussed what humanity should do with this knowledge. Should they warn the Council? Would the Council even listen? Or should humanity focus on protecting itself and let the Council face its own consequences? The debate lasted for hours with no clear answer. Admiral Do-hyun argued for military preparation. When the Council collapsed, chaos would spread across the galaxy. Human space needed to be ready, not just to defend against attacks, but to provide stability in the region. Humanity could offer protection to nearby species who wanted to escape the coming storm. Ambassador Tae-yang suggested a different approach. Share the Torvan records with Council members who tried to reform the system. Give them evidence that change was necessary. Maybe knowing the historical precedent would motivate real reforms. It was a small chance, but worth trying. Bora decided to do both. She authorized Tae-yang to share the records with reform-minded Council members. She also authorized Do-hyun to accelerate military preparations. Humanity would try to help the galaxy avoid disaster, but they would be ready if the disaster came anyway. Hope for the best, prepare for the worst. It was the only sensible approach. As the first year of independence ended, humanity was stronger than ever before. Their economy was stable. Their military was growing. Their culture was confident. Most importantly, they proved that leaving the Council was not a death sentence. Species could survive and prosper without Council membership. This lesson would prove important very soon. 2 years after humanity left the Council, the Velcor Collective made a terrible mistake. A human mining operation discovered valuable heavy metals in a remote asteroid field. The field was clearly inside human territory. Every map showed it. Every treaty confirmed it. But the Velcor claimed an ancient territorial right from before humans arrived in the region. Marshal Tovan, Supreme Velcor military commander, warned against this action. He studied human behavior carefully since the Morningstar incident. Humans were not weak. Their organized withdrawal, their defensive preparations, their careful planning all showed strength. Testing them was dangerous, but civilian leaders overruled him. They believed humans would back down rather than fight. The Velcor sent 12 warships to the asteroid field. Commander Thress led the mission. Yes, the same officer who destroyed the Morningstar. Apparently, promotion came faster than punishment in Velcor society. The warships arrived and broadcast a simple message. Human miners must leave immediately. This territory now belonged to the Velcor Collective. Mining Director Jamin contacted Earth the moment Velcor ships appeared. Admiral Do-hyun responded within minutes. His orders were clear and direct. Evacuate all civilian miners to safety, then defend human territory with whatever force necessary. The defense fleet mobilized immediately. 30 ships moved toward the asteroid field at maximum speed. Captain Mina commanded the task force. The human fleet arrived within 24 hours. They positioned themselves between the Velcor ships and the mining station. Captain Mina opened all communication channels. Her message was polite but absolutely firm. This was human territory under human law. The Velcor ships would leave peacefully, or they would be removed by force. There would be no negotiation. Commander Thress laughed when he heard the warning. 12 Velcor warships against 30 human vessels seemed like fair odds to him. Velcor ships were larger and more heavily armed. Everyone in the galaxy knew this. Thress assumed humans were bluffing. They would retreat as soon as he showed force. It was the same assumption he made about the Morningstar. It was wrong then. It was wrong now. Thress ordered his ships to advance in battle formation. When the humans held their position, he opened fire. Velcor plasma cannons struck human shields with tremendous power. The shields flickered but held. Everyone watching assumed the battle would follow traditional patterns. Big ships with heavy weapons would pound smaller ships until they broke and ran, but human ships did not fight traditionally. They moved with unusual speed, their engines more powerful than their size suggested. They coordinated attacks in complex patterns like a school of fish moving as one. Their weapons were different too. Kinetic railguns fired solid projectiles at incredible speeds. Missile swarms overwhelmed Velcor point defenses. Electronic warfare systems blinded Velcor sensors. Within 20 minutes, 3 Velcor ships were heavily damaged and drifting. Thress could not understand what was happening. His ships were superior in every measurable specification. Bigger guns, thicker armor, more powerful reactors. But the humans were winning. He ordered retreat. The human ships blocked every escape route. They did not want the Velcor to withdraw. They wanted complete victory. The battle lasted 47 minutes total. All 12 Velcor ships were disabled or destroyed. 8 survived with heavy damage. 4 were completely destroyed when their reactors exploded. The human fleet suffered only light damage to 4 vessels. No human deaths. No destroyed ships. It was not even close. Captain Mina broadcast to the surviving Velcor crews. Her message was brief. Be grateful you lived. Next time humanity would not show mercy. News spread across the galaxy within hours. Every major news service showed the recordings. Every species saw the same thing. Humans defeated one of the Council's most powerful militaries with embarrassing ease. The implications were enormous. If humans could do this, what else could they do? How strong were they really? Why did the Council ever let them leave? The Galaxy Council held an emergency session. The chamber was chaos. The Velcor demanded intervention. They wanted the Council to condemn human aggression and authorize military action against human space. But other members were not sympathetic. Several representatives pointed out the obvious. The Velcor started this fight. They invaded human territory. The humans defended themselves. Senator Vorvis from the Lian Commonwealth spoke with unusual anger. The humans warned the Council 2 years ago. They said they would protect their own interests, since the Council would not. The Velcor chose to test that warning. Now they paid the price. The Council's failure to provide justice for the Morning Star created this situation. Blaming humanity was ridiculous. Smaller species watched the arguments with great interest. They saw something important. You did not need Council membership to defend yourself. You did not need Council permission to say no to bullies. Power came from strength and determination, not from political status. This lesson would change everything. On Earth, reactions were mixed. Defense Minister Kyung celebrated the victory. Project Talon succeeded beyond expectations. Human technology worked. Human tactics worked. Most importantly, human determination worked. They drew a line and defended it. Other species would think carefully before crossing that line again. But Secretary General Bora worried about consequences. Humanity just humiliated a major power. The Velcor would want revenge. More importantly, the Council now saw humans as a potential threat rather than a departed member. This could make everything more complicated and dangerous. Being strong was good. Being seen as a threat was risky. Ambassador Taeyang offered a different view. The galaxy respected strength. The Council ignored humanity because they seemed weak. Nobody would make that mistake anymore. Yes, there would be consequences. But those consequences included respect. Humanity never had that before. Sometimes being feared was better than being dismissed. Within weeks, 8 small species contacted humanity. They represented the Darien Accord, the group that tried to reform the Council from within. Now they saw a better option. Leave the Council entirely and form a new alliance with humanity. They watched humans carefully for 2 years. They saw economic independence. They saw military strength. Most importantly, they saw humans stand up to bullies and win. Ambassador Kelvin led their delegation to Earth. He explained their proposal. These species wanted what humanity had: independence, self-respect, the ability to say no to powerful members who treated them poorly. They proposed a new kind of alliance, not the Council model where strong dominated weak. Instead, genuine partnership where all members had equal voice and equal protection. The Darien species offered their knowledge, resources, and loyalty. In return, they asked for human technology and military protection. The offer was serious. These species were willing to leave the Council permanently. They trusted humanity to treat them fairly. That trust was based on watching human behavior for 2 years. The Earth government debated the proposal for 3 weeks. This would change everything. Humanity would no longer stand alone, but they would take responsibility for protecting their allies. That responsibility was permanent. If war came, human soldiers would fight to defend species they barely knew. Was humanity ready for that burden? Admiral Doyen argued in favor. Human military strength meant nothing if they only protected themselves. Real power came from alliances. These species offered resources, strategic locations, and intelligence about council operations. More importantly, they offered legitimacy. Humanity would not be a rogue state anymore. They would be the center of a new alliance. Ambassador Somin also supported the proposal. She worked for 2 years building relationships with independent species. The Darien Accord members were honorable. They tried to fix the council from inside. When that failed, they had the courage to leave. These were good allies. Humanity should accept their offer. Some officials worried about council reaction. Creating a rival alliance would be seen as hostile. The council might respond with economic sanctions or even military action. But Secretary General Bora pointed out the obvious. The council already saw humanity as a threat. That ship sailed when humans destroyed the Velcor fleet. Might as well have allies when the conflict came. The final vote was not unanimous but clear. Earth government voted to accept the proposal. The Free Systems Alliance was born with 9 founding members. Humanity sat at its center, but all members had equal status. Laws would apply equally. Resources would be shared fairly. Justice would not depend on power. It was everything the Galaxy Council claimed to be but never was. The announcement shocked the Galaxy Council. Losing 1 member was embarrassing. Losing 9 members at once was a crisis. Economic networks collapsed. Trade routes failed. Political relationships broke down. The Council's authority was crumbling. And a rival alliance was forming. Led by the species the Council dismissed as insignificant. Council Director Vorn called another emergency session. He tried to present options for responding to this crisis, but no good options existed. The Council could not attack the Free Systems Alliance without risking war. They could not offer reforms without admitting their system was broken. They could not ignore the situation because more members were considering leaving. The Council was trapped by its own failures. Part 5. The Free Systems Alliance grew faster than anyone expected. Within 6 months, 15 more species left the Council and joined. Each brought unique strengths. The Aurelian were brilliant scientists who shared research freely. The Aurelian traders created new economic networks connecting members efficiently. The Tavian merchants opened markets that never existed before. Together they built something unprecedented. A galactic alliance based on actual equality. Ambassador Somin chaired the Alliance Council. Meetings happened on Luna in a building designed to accommodate all member species. Unlike the Galaxy Council's grand theater with its tiers showing status, this was a simple circular chamber. Every member sat at the same level. No special accommodations for powerful species because all species were equal here. Laws applied to everyone identically. Secretary General Bora attended the first full session. She watched representatives from 24 species working together smoothly. This was what she hoped the Galaxy Council would be when humanity joined. Instead, humans had to leave and build it themselves. Sometimes the only way to create something new was abandoning something broken beyond repair. Meanwhile, the Galaxy Council struggled with growing problems. Economic difficulties increased as trade networks collapsed. Political arguments grew louder as members blamed each other. Military concerns mounted as the Council realized it had rivals now. Not just departed members. Council Director Vorn tried holding everything together, but the fundamental problems remained unsolved. The Council still operated on power and politics instead of justice and equality. Smaller members still had no protection against abuse by larger ones. Nothing changed except everyone could see clearly now that the system was broken. More species considered leaving. The Lian Commonwealth debated withdrawal publicly. Senator Vorvis argued staying served no purpose if the Council would not reform. Other species had similar debates. The Velcor Collective refused to accept their defeat. Marshal Toven tried explaining reality to civilian leaders. Humans were strong. Testing them again was foolish. The Velcor should accept the loss and move forward carefully. But civilian leaders demanded action. They authorized a major military operation. Invade human space with overwhelming force. Destroy human military capacity. Force humanity to accept Velcor dominance. It was a terrible plan born from wounded pride and complete misunderstanding of the situation. The Velcor assembled 200 warships, the largest fleet they ever deployed. The plan called for striking 3 key human systems simultaneously. If they destroyed major military installations, they believed human resistance would collapse. Nobody considered what would happen if the plan failed. Human intelligence detected the Velcor buildup months before the attack. Admiral Dohyun watched their preparations with grim satisfaction. The Velcor were doing exactly what he expected. They could not admit they were wrong, so they would make their mistake bigger. This gave humanity the perfect opportunity to end the problem permanently. When the Velcor fleet crossed into human space, they found the 3 target systems completely empty. No military ships, no space stations, no defenses at all, just abandoned mining facilities and automated warning beacons. The Velcor commanders were confused but confident. The humans fled in fear. Victory seemed certain. Then 400 ships emerged from hyperspace behind the Velcor fleet. The entire Earth defense fleet plus vessels from Alliance members. They trapped the Velcor against human territory with no escape route. Admiral Dohyun broadcast his terms on all frequencies. Surrender immediately and unconditionally or be destroyed. There would be no negotiation. The Velcor commanders knew they could not win. Their fleet was designed for offensive operations, not defensive ones. They were surrounded and badly outnumbered. Some wanted to fight anyway. Pride demanded it. But Marshal Toven took command personally through emergency protocols. He ordered complete surrender. Enough Velcor died because of stupid pride. He would not waste more lives on a battle that was already lost. The entire Velcor fleet surrendered without firing a single shot. It was the most humiliating defeat in their history. But Admiral Dohyun was not finished. He broadcast another message to all Velcor territory. The Velcor collective government was guilty of unprovoked aggression. The people deserved better leadership. Humanity offered protection and support to any Velcor who wanted to leave the collective and join the Free Systems Alliance. Within days, 3 Velcor colony worlds declared independence and requested alliance membership. Within weeks, it became 12 worlds. The Velcor collective was splitting apart. The military dictatorship that ruled for centuries suddenly had no authority. People chose freedom over strength. They chose justice over power. Marshal Toven contacted Admiral Dohyun through secret channels. He proposed a deal. The core Velcor worlds would reform their government. They would establish democratic institutions. They would accept responsibility for their crimes, including the Morning Star incident. In return, humanity would help stabilize the transition and prevent complete chaos. The alternative was civil war across dozens of star systems. The Earth government debated carefully. Helping the Velcor seemed strange after everything that happened. But Secretary General Bora understood the strategic value. A reformed Velcor government could become an ally. A collapsed Velcor territory would become a disaster affecting everyone. After long discussion, humanity agreed to help. Human advisors, peacekeepers, and economic aid flowed into Velcor space. Not to control them, but to help them build something better. This was the difference between the Alliance and the old Council. The Alliance helped members grow stronger, not kept them weak and dependent. Within a year, the reformed Velcor Republic requested Alliance membership. After careful consideration, the Alliance voted to accept them. 5 years after humanity left the Galaxy Council, the Galactic Order had completely changed. The Council still existed but lost more than half its members. The powerful species that dominated it now faced economic problems and political instability. They built a system based on keeping others weak. Now that system was collapsing around them. The Free Systems Alliance had 68 member species. Together, they represented the majority of intelligent life in the galaxy. Their economy was growing steadily. Their technology advanced rapidly through shared research. Most importantly, their system actually worked. Species cooperated because they benefited from cooperation, not because they feared punishment. A ceremony on Luna marked the 5th anniversary of humanity's departure from the Council. Representatives from all Alliance members attended. Secretary General Bora gave a speech about the journey. She talked about the Morning Star and the 47 humans who died. Their sacrifice was not in vain. They showed humanity that sometimes walking away from a corrupt system was the only way to create something better. The families of the Morning Star crew gathered on Earth for a memorial service. A monument stood in Geneva listing all 47 names. Captain Hana, Science Officer Ji-young, Navigation Specialist Daeho, Medical Officer Sumi, Engineer Wu Jin, and 42 others. They went to space seeking knowledge and died for no good reason. But their deaths changed everything. If the Council had provided justice, humanity might have stayed in a broken system. Instead, their deaths proved the system could not be reformed from within. It had to be abandoned and replaced. That painful lesson saved countless lives in the years that followed. Other species saw what happened and learned the same lesson. The memorial included a recorded message from Admiral Do-Yun. "We remember the Morning Star. We remember why we left. We remember why we built something new. Justice delayed is justice denied. But justice remembered becomes justice achieved." The 47 did not die for nothing. They died so the galaxy could be better. Their sacrifice gave us the courage to demand more than the Council was willing to give. Ambassador Taeyang stood before the monument with tears in his eyes. He was the one who walked out of the Council chamber 5 years ago. Sometimes he wondered if there was another way. Could he have negotiated better? Could he have convinced the Council to change? But he knew the answer. The Council was never going to change. Leaving was the only option. Building something new was the only answer. The story concluded with a simple scene far from Earth. A human exploration ship discovered a new habitable world in unclaimed space. The crew was diverse. Humans, Tavians, Irillian, Reformed Velcor, and 6 other species. They worked together mapping the planet and planning where to establish the first settlement. Captain Jiwan watched her crew and thought about how far everyone came. 5 years ago, these species barely spoke to each other. Some were enemies. Some were victims of the same broken system. Now they explored together, built together, and trusted each other with their lives. This was what cooperation should look like. Not powerful species dominating weak ones, but all species working together as equals. Someone asked Jiwan what they should name the new world. She thought for a moment, then smiled. Morning Star. The settlement would be called Morning Star after the ship that was lost and the people who died. They would remember the price of justice and the cost of building something better than what came before. Every generation would know the story. Every child would understand why the Alliance existed.